Hey everyone, Skull902 here, and today I'll be taking a dive into some of the things in both versions of Sonic 1 I didn't quite get to show off or at least mention in the original LPs or the Tails run, plus some extra goodies. Let's begin. For the Genesis original, there's some stuff I didn't show you from the game's annoying zones, and then with the 8-bit versions, there's a path in Skybase I didn't take, as well as some differences between the Master System and Game Gear releases. And starting off with the top path of Act 1 in Labyrinth Zone, you go here normally, and then there's going to be like a rising platform on the bottom. You gotta get like near the bottom, and then go on that platform up, and there will be another little platform on the surface of the water, waiting for you to take you on a shorter way to the end of the act. I pressed that button there, and had I gotten the ring box that's behind that door, there's actually just enough rings on this path to allow me to get into the special stage had I needed it. So, you know, that helps, but it's only in the Japanese revision 101, I believe it is. Oh, hold left here, by the way, because if not, you're going to get shot right into an enemy. But yeah, you know, they put an extra ring here in the Japanese version. In the original North American and European releases, they didn't have that ring, so you could only finish with 49 on the act if you had gotten that ring box. But yeah, you know, aside from that, you know, this is a very helpful shortcut, and once you get past these two burrow bots, it's a straight shot to the sign, which is pretty neato. There's some secrets in Scrap Brain Zone Act 2, the first of which has entirely to do with rings. You know, it's all about them rings, baby. So, what you're going to want to do is navigate the bottom path of the act and not land there because it's very dangerous. I'm a trained professional Sonic the Hedgehog player, so I have the years and experience in order to get myself out of that jam. But again, just continue along the bottom path until you get around here. And if you have 50 rings or more, once you get to this transport tube, go inside and hold up, and it'll take you to this path here, the very tippity-toppity path of the act, which is a very nice, like, clear shot. There's barely any danger, and it'll take you right to the end of the act, and oh gee, there were a bunch of item boxes there. I wonder what their purpose is. How do we get to those item boxes? Because asking what their purpose is kind of stupid. But here's how. You go along the normal path on the bottom, and then those platforms will show up. They appear every 15 seconds, so that's why it took me so fucking long to get them, but you know, there's just enough space for Sonic to be up here and roll into those boxes. You get 40 rings as well as an extra life. That's a pretty nice fucking secret, if I do say so myself. Now, here's the fucking big one. Scrap Brain Act 3, the long path. Should you decide to torture yourself by not taking the shortcut at the very beginning, you end up here in what appears to be like a fourth act of Labyrinth, basically. Which, according to the Sonic Jam manual and like Yuji Naka's comments that he did for those manuals, or rather that one manual, he said something like, you know, due to time and space restrictions, they you know, really wanted to do like a full-on level for Scrap Brain's basement, but you know, they couldn't quite do it due to those factors, and instead had to do a palette swap of Labyrinth. And if I'm not mistaken, actually, I think that this was a scrapped level design for one of the main Labyrinth acts. So you know, if that's the case, then this would be kind of a nice example of like repurposing something, because, you know, even without like the bubbles coming up slower or the spike balls on the chain, you know, spinning around faster, this would still be pretty fucking hard. You know, even for where Labyrinth is in terms of the difficulty progression of the game. And then again, Starlight's not nearly as difficult as Labyrinth, so I don't fucking know. This like, the level of difficulty here just kind of says final level when you take this path. And, again, of course, I must reiterate, for the love of God, take the shortcut at the beginning, you know? I was only doing this for your entertainment. You see, I make sacrifices for your entertainment. They they may be you know, meaningless fucking first world problems, fucking, you know, bratty sacrifices, but they're sacrifices nonetheless. I'm just kidding, but yeah, very interesting. But something else that Naka said in the Sonic Jam manual about this level here that kind of interests me is that they did this level design, or at least the little cutscene there for some story purposes. They kind of themed this level on the idea of Sonic having to fight his way back up through the very bottom, the bowels of Scrap Brain Zone, to get the final confrontation with Eggman, and that's pretty fucking cool, actually. I really dig that that sort of idea. So good on them. But once you make it up here, it's just you know, there it's the spot, you know, that you could have made in about a minute, but you took 3 minutes instead. And will I drown? Who fucking knows? But now we're going to be moving on to the 8-bit game. And this is the Master System version, and I'm going to be showing off Skybase, Act 2, the top path, and my god, you know, you would think that they'd make the Chaos Emerald path the harder one, but this one really is the harder one. You can't jump here, so you gotta, like, off-screen the bomb, while also making sure that that spike wall that always keeps advancing at you is far enough away so that you can start running away from it. You know, this shit just took me like so many fucking attempts, and let's just say I was really, really happy to finally be able to make it to the end part there and just roll on through without any difficulty, because it took me far more attempts than I would like to say. Like, fuck, just go for the Chaos Emerald in Skybase Act 2. But here are some Game Gear differences. As we can see, Sonic has a much uglier sprite. His face is like smushed in. There's screen crunch, and you saw like a warning sign there for big drops. They usually do that for Bottomless Pits, but sometimes, like in Green Hill Act 2, it'll just be for like a big drop, so that you know what to expect. The bridge boss is actually on a bridge, as Rabbit pointed out, and the strategy's a little different. You gotta like roll on the bridge in order to avoid his attack. Hey, look at that! I dropped in Jungle Zone Act 2, and I didn't fucking die. Very nice. The Chaos Emerald in Labyrinth Zone is no longer in a spike pit. There is still a spike hazard there, but it's much easier to avoid. The Chaos Emerald is much more obvious now in the Game Gear version. And then no real changes in Scrap Brain Zone. So in Skybase, to get the Chaos Emerald, you've got to make like this blind move, because you know, even when ducking down, that platform isn't going to go into your field of view because of the screen crunch. But also, they made this path harder because now there's a turret here shooting some laser balls, and if you get bad RNG, that can really, really fuck you over. Let me tell you. But they also changed the final boss. Flashing light warning, by the way. But this guy, he seems really fucking hard, but his pattern is simple. The flame shooters go left, right, and then middle. And once you know that, you can like 2-cycle him. It's pretty awesome that I got it done that fast. But yeah, those are the Game Gear differences, at least the ones that I could point out off the top of my head. The ending is just the same as it was in the Master System version, so I don't feel the need to go and show that off. But yeah, that's all the unseen gameplay bits. Next on the list are cheat codes. Nothing too extensive, but still worth mentioning. When on the title screen, press up, down, left, right, hold A, and press start. That'll bring up the level select. In most versions of the game, when playing the Japanese version on a Japanese console, the code slightly changes to up, down, 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 left, right, but otherwise stays the same. Here's a screen cap from Sonic Retro explaining how to view the ending sequence and/or credits from the level select screen. Activating debug mode goes as follows. On the title screen, press C, C, up, down, left, right, then hold A and start until the title card for Green Hill shows up. Again, this works differently on Japanese consoles, where the code is technically C, 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 up, down, 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 left, right, but it doesn't actually matter when you put in the C presses. Pressing up before holding A and start will allow you to also input the level select code. Alternatively, in debug mode, you can pause the game and press A to return to the title screen to input level select. Both will still be active. For some reason, Sonic Team really wanted to make it harder for people playing the NTSC-J versions on Japanese hardware, because the pause actions require this code to be activated. The other pause actions are for the game to run in slow motion while holding B, and C goes frame by frame. Otherwise, debug mode is the same thing I've described in Sonic 2 and 3. Moving on. In the credits of the game, the developers all used aliases because apparently that was a standard back then. But I guess they figured somebody would want to know who actually did what, so they hid it in the Sonic Team Presents screen. It only works on Japanese hardware, but in order to see the credits on the title screen, press C 6 times up, down, 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 left, right in the Japanese version, or C 6 times up, down, left, right in the international version. Then when the demo starts, hold down A, B, C and press either start or let the demo finish. Doing this will also uncover a text on the title screen reading press start button, which doesn't normally appear due to a glitch. Time for the endings I didn't show off. Unlike Sonic 2 and 3 and K, there's not really much difference between good and bad, but here they are. Alright, so with the bad endings, we've got the 16-bit game, Sonic and Tails, both running in Green Hill Zone, the animals are all bouncing around, but when they stop, the Chaos Emeralds aren't going to be there. There won't be more flora or anything. Sonic looks like he's very disappointed. Tails cannot believe that you would fuck up like this. And then, mockingly, Eggman juggles the Chaos Emeralds at you, all the ones that you didn't get on your run, because he's a fucking asshole. Fuck you, Eggman. And then in the 8-bit game, things don't change too significantly. Like, we still got this bit here with Eggman in the teleporter, and then you have to jump in and go after him and whatnot. And it does the cutscene where Eggman is just kind of like, strolling by, minding his own business at this point. Just, maybe calculating his next plan, and then boom, Sonic just kind of hits him. And whatnot. But again, no Chaos Emerald cutscene where, like, the emeralds go into the air. There's still all this pollution, hanging around South Island and everything. The Chaos Emeralds don't fix that. No bonus for the emeralds and whatnot. Very disappointing. Still get bonuses for Sonics. And the thing that I really don't get is no special bonus. Because, on this run, I went to the special stages, so I'm kind of wondering if that's tied into the good ending. If not the special stages, I'm not sure about that. I always thought that special bonus had something to do with the special stages, but regardless, those are the endings that I missed, and yeah. After a small look at what I abandoned, let's see what the developers abandoned from the games. Here are some sprites for concepts they didn't use and, in a couple cases, full unused animations. Starting off with a couple meant for Labyrinth Zone, the first looks to be Sonic desperately gasping for air, while the second features the poor guy trying in vain to hold his breath, which could have possibly been used during the countdown. In the game's files, a strange oblongated animation of one of Sonic's jumping frames can be found. Some think it might have been a proto-spin dash type move, while other speculation has been placed on it being some kind of warping animation. Sonic was also originally going to have a victory animation after clearing an act. However, the addition of the warping giant rings complicated things and the animation was left out. This pose would later become a part of the Blue Blur's victory animation in Sonic Mania. Looks like the Eggwalker was an idea long before it was fully implemented in Sonic Adventure 2. Here we see the unused bad nickname Splats, who was featured in multiple prototype builds of the game but was cut, which must have been fairly late into production because the guy made it into a bunch of promotional material for the game and had merchandise. Like Sonic's victory pose, he'd eventually see the light of day in Mania. In the special stage there are some interesting unused objects. First up are these icons for zones 1 to 6, which may have been used to warp Sonic to any of these locations. The next one is an extra life icon. Interesting about this one is that it can be placed in debug mode and it works just as intended, so it must have been another late cut from the game. It even appears in the North American and European manuals. Lastly is this W icon, which could have either been a warp or maybe doubled something in value like rings. The latter suggestion is based on the association between the letter W and doubling up in Japanese culture. Here are some other unused objects I find interesting. The Eggman monitor was originally meant to be a stage hazard in Sonic 1, but didn't get a place in the games until Sonic 2 and wouldn't be used for single player until Sonic 3. Now here's something I find super interesting. The Goggle power-up. Thought to give Sonic unlimited breath underwater, this power-up was scrapped from the game. The item box and associated goggle sprites remain though, which fits Sonic's animations nearly perfectly. There's also a mysterious blank monitor, its purpose unknown. The last item box is the S monitor, which based on reports seems to be a combination of the speed shoes and invincibility power-ups. The final thing I want to show here is this variation of the Green Hill boss's Wrecking Ball, which would have rolled at you at various points in the stage, but which you could also ride on with good enough balance. In the Master System and Game Gear versions, we have a couple interesting things as well. Have some design documents that composer Yuzo Koshiro put on Twitter, and the designs for an unused final boss concept with multiple turrets firing at Sonic. Something else about the 8-bit game? At some point, Marble Zone was planned to be in it. Proof of this can be seen in the unused sprites for Bat Brain and, even more damningly, an 8-bit rendition of the Zone's music that's hidden in the game's files. Have a listen. And now a look back at the earliest material, for when they were just coming up with all of this stuff. Let's take a look first at some of the rejected entries of the character design contest Sega internally held for their new mascot. There's this old-timey looking rabbit, no telling if he's lucky like Oswald. This old badass warrior guy who should seriously be used for something. The product of my nightmares and an enemy for said nightmare. You decide which is which. Then we've got this absolute degenerate, a character that wouldn't look out of place in Mega Man and two other losers. Mario's weeb cousin. I thought this was an internal design contest. When did Klasky Chupo get the memo? Anyway, there was also this moronic porcupine, a complete motherfucker of a chicken who will steal your girl, some other chicken trying to steal the original's thunder but comes off as lame, Spot from 7-Up disguised as a rabbit, your uncle but in wolf form, this tough son of a bitch, and then this. Yep, Dr. Eggman was originally designed as the protagonist. They knew they couldn't waste this character design, so in a creative twist he became the villain. Pretty neat, eh? And then, of course, Naoto Oshima's original Needle Mouse design, featuring others that didn't quite make the cut. Over time, the design became considerably less spiky and the Hedgehog was named Sonic. Aside from Sonic and Eggman, some other series regulars were supposed to be introduced in the first game. Most of them wouldn't make it very far, but who are they? Well, let's start off with Sonic's band. Oh yes, our Hedgehog hero was going to be a musician long before Underground executed that idea. Meant to be visible as a part of the sound test, we had Sonic as the vocalist, Mach the Rabbit on drums, Max the Monkey on bass guitar, Sharps the Parakeet on lead guitar, and, oh my god, my man, Vector the motherfucking Crocodile on keyboards! Before scoring some bunny bitches, founding a detective agency, or even hanging with Knuckles, Vector was apparently on the music scene with Sonic. Or at least would have been had the original sound test been kept. It would have featured the band playing along in Sonic breakdancing, but the devs were running out of time and put a standard sound test in the level select menu. So instead they used the cartridge space reserved for the sound test to do this. Sega! Next up is Madonna. No, not her, you silly head. There we are. Madonna was created as a love interest of sorts for Sonic. Though no material explaining exactly what their connection was supposed to be exists, most figure she was going to be his girlfriend. Think Roger and Jessica Rabbit, something like that. The reason for her scrapping is also up to debate. Madeline Schroeder was the project manager for Sonic 1 in North America and claimed she put the axe on Madonna because a hedgehog-human relationship would be hard to market in the West. On the other hand, Yuji Naka has said that she was kicked to the curb because they didn't want people picking out similarities with Sonic 1 and the Mario series, as well as focusing the conflict more on the hero and villain without putting a damsel in the mix for the sake of having a familiar cliché. The idea of interspecies love must have been creeping around in Naka's mind, but thankfully instead of trying it himself, he decided to implement a similar relationship in the story of Sonic 06. Madonna would later be repurposed in the Archie comics as Madonna Garnet, an agent for Gunn's Clip Division who handles interrogations. She's something of a composite between the original idea and Topaz from Sonic X. Weird. Another idea that was axed early on was Sonic's enemies all being organic creatures, including an ominous figure, Hamburger Helper gone rogue, a demonic eyeball hand, a cannon, this walking penis, and the guy with the mouth big enough to suck it. Said orally dick-pleasuring monster was even included in sprite form in the game's earliest public showing. However, it was not meant to be. Sonic Team smartly realized this guy here was the way to go, and so it has remained ever since. Alas, Mouth Mutant, you'll get your cummies someday. On the western side of things, there was also some weird pre-release lore that got cut. There are multiple drafts of a Sonic the Hedgehog story bible by Sega of America, written because the division apparently lacked access to the Japanese story material, so this could be the reason why the continuity was split for the first 8 years of Sonic's existence. In the earliest version, Sonic was a normal hedgehog named Sonny who lived in Nebraska and had ambitions of being a track runner, with a hedgehog family and friends made up of a bunch of woodland critters before he became the hedgehog we know now. Later versions cut his family in the setting, instead having him be raised by and alongside his friends on a planet called Mobius. But the things that remained were that he started off as a brown hedgehog that turned blue through a speed-related experiment conducted by the friendly Dr. Ovi Kintobor, who himself is transformed into Dr. Robotnik after an experiment gone wrong involving the Chaos Emeralds, a machine called the Retro-Orbital Chaos Compressor, and a rotten or half-eaten egg. Pretty wacky, but there were some works that used this origin story, such as Fleetway's Sonic the Comic and the French Sonic Adventures comic, and Western media of the time would always use at least a couple elements from these story bibles to build their own adaptations of the games. At one point, a press release prototype of the Game Gear version of Sonic 1 was uncovered, which is basically just a demo of Green Hill Zone. According to Sonic Retro, the other zones are accessible via hacking, but their art was removed and most of them crash upon starting. Other than that, the differences are minimal. The Sega logo isn't in the startup yet, Sonic's still using his much better looking Master System sprites, there's this weird glitch strip of land when you jump in the air, Sonic changes colors when he nears the signpost, and when you beat the act, it loops back to the beginning. Unless you hit a checkpoint box, then you'll start from there. Overall, it's pretty bare bones. More interestingly, something that cropped up after I started writing this video. A prototype build of the Genesis version was shown to the public on December 31st, 2020 and released the next day. The cartridge was found by members of HiddenPalace.org and the Cutting Room Floor, who then loaned it to be dumped by DRX, who released the Nick Arcade prototype of Sonic 2 back in 2006. From what's included in the ROM, I can only assume this was a build from somewhat later in development, but there's some things inside here that are far different from the final version, which until the ROM was released were only seen in early magazine advertisements and press showings. For graphical differences, the Sega logo is just a standard one. There's no Sonic Team Presents screen, the title screen has the press start button prompt, the act title cards have a period after the word act, and the HUD reads ring instead of rings. In terms of gameplay, Sonic's jump is lower, he loses speed when running across bridges, extra lives are collected for every 50 rings as opposed to 100, the point combos are absent, the spikes are even more fucking OP, checkpoints don't exist so if you die your ass is sent back to the beginning of the act, the vertical camera isn't finished, there are no time overs, instead the clock will roll back to 9 minutes once it reaches its maximum, and the point markers for finishing an act are missing, as are the giant rings, but in exchange for that, Sonic doesn't run off screen and we get to see how that unused victory animation was meant to be used. Hip hip, hooray! I'm only going to skim some differences in the levels, but in Green Hill we've got those wrecking balls mentioned earlier, and by pressing B when choosing Act 3 on the level select, you can access a slightly different version of it where Sonic spawns in midair for some reason, and you can tell Eggman to go fuck himself instead of fighting him. In Marble Zone, a bunch of UFOs are seen in the sky. The whole zone is spammed with Spikes, who was replaced by the much more reasonably placed Caterkiller in the final game. These pillars have to be pounded down instead of pressing a switch to do it. A spike-jutting piston used to be at the end of Act 1. There's a whole extra bit of level at the end of Act 2, and there's no boss. Springyard Zone is called Sparkling Zone and features a completely different background, also fuck this bit. Labyrinth Zone is only playable via level select, also has a different background, has no enemies or items, and is completely waterless. Starlight Zone has some impossible level design. Scrap Brain Zone is also only playable from the level select menu and is called Clockwork Zone. It's largely unfinished. Final Zone isn't accessible in this build. Then finally, the special stage has only one course. You can only jump with the C button, and there's no Chaos Emerald to collect. To get a better understanding of the differences, I'd highly recommend checking out the Sonic Retro page for it, which I'll leave in the description. With all that said, here's some assorted random stuff. Remember that American origin story stuff I told you about before? Well, there was actually a comic book that used the same backstory. Published by Sega themselves in the fall of 1991, the comic is about Sonic rescuing his animal friends from Robotnik, the origin story revealed in a flashback after they ask Sonic to get Kintobor's help. Sonic visits Labyrinth and Starlight Zone to rescue his buddies, and tells them to stay out of trouble by keeping away from Robotnik. The comic ends by advising the reader to play the game to continue the story. Again, pretty wacky, but an interesting look at the beginnings of the franchise. Yup, Japan got in on the art of tie-ins as well. The Sonic the Hedgehog story comic came in 3 volumes between June and July 1991, and they've got some weird and interesting stuff like Sonic still performing with his band that be nowhere in the game, his biggest fangirl, Eggman's verbal tick of saying yes at the end of his sentences, and Bulma. The first volume sets up Sonic and Eggman's rivalry, with the Doctor kidnapping the small animals at the end. He wants to do this so that he can use the Chaos Emeralds to boil the world's largest egg, by the way. I could only find a translation of the first issue, but if you want to read it, there's links on the Sonic News Network article for the manga. Aw yeah, it's that time again. Appropriately enough, the trend started with the first game, and oh, what a beautiful phenomenon it is. It's the same text we got in the Sonic 2 box art, which I already read for that game's extra video. But fuck it, I want to read it again. Don't just sit there and waste your precious time. When you want to do something, do it right away. Do it when you can. It's the only way to live a life without regrets. Pure beauty put into words. 10 out of 10. Can't go wrong with a good old TV ad, and this game had a few. In North America, they went with live-action commercials featuring direct pot shots at Nintendo and Mario, except in this ad, which has a charmingly lame and cheesy old-school rap song in it. There's this one about a salesman trying desperately to shill Nintendo products to a kid with a SNES playing Mario World and a Genesis playing Sonic 1 side by side, similarly to something Sega would do to promote the game in a tour of shopping malls around Sonic 1's release. Despite his best efforts, the kid picks the Genesis and, you know, Sonic 1's a great game and all, but I think the kid missed out. Then we've got some prude representing a group called Hedgehog complaining about Sonic being a smarty pants. Considering Sonic's of average intelligence, one must wonder if Tails' existence caused Anita Stokes to have a rage-induced heart attack. The Japanese ads embraced animation. This one is done in traditional 2D style, with Sonic going on adventures and encountering dangers that have nothing to do with what's in the actual product. And the second one is in claymation, which surprises me a little because that was kinda Nintendo shtick back then. Also, I don't care what Johnny says, claymation Sonic is great. This little bit at the end with the Sega logo is also recreated in the opening of the Game Gear version. There's a few European ads for the game I want to talk about, of course. In the UK ad, this guy's playing in some warehouse or whatever and a ninja's after him. He talks about how everything seems so slow after playing the game, which I find pretty funny considering how slow the unoptimized PAL version of the game actually is. In the German ad, a young businessman and his secretary, I guess, play Sonic 1 as a form of foreplay. Grease, what the fuck was that? Okay, so I won't bore you with straight up ports and stuff because I know you guys are most likely aware it's on the Sonic Mega Collection or whatever, but there are some interesting re-releases of the 16-bit version. In 1997, Sega released Sonic Jam for the Saturn, which gave us all the main series Genesis titles but included some fun options like difficulty modes and the ability to spin dash in Sonic 1. Many years later, in 2013, a couple new versions came out. The first was released on the Nintendo 3DS, which had stereoscopic 3D effects and also gave you the spin dash. The other one was a widescreen enhanced remake for mobile phones by Christian Whitehead, which uses his retro engine and has Tails and Knuckles as playable characters along with a Sonic and Tails option, in addition to changes made in other versions. Also, shame on Sega for not putting this version out on anything other than phones. Then in 2018 there was the Sega Ages version, released on the Nintendo Switch. It's a port of the 3DS version but with additional features from the 3DS version of Sonic 2 as well as Sonic Mania. Plus, it also contains the first re-release of the Mega Play Arcade version of the game. So there we go, 4 interesting re-releases of Sonic 1 that have some unique features and whatnot. Glad my work is done. Fuck. Alright, I'll talk about it, but this one deserves a video of its own. Oh, what the hell am I getting myself into? Join me next time, folks, because I'm gonna dig into Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance. See you in a week. I've been Skull902, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.